Welcome to the attack chain section of the Cybersecurity Reference Architectures. My name is Mark Simos, lead cybersecurity architect at Microsoft. Ken?
My name is Ken Malcolmson. I'm an executive security advisor at Microsoft. I work with our enterprise customers on security strategy and policy.
Cool. So today we're going to talk about how Microsoft's tools and capabilities map to the common steps in an attack sequence or an attack chain. So ultimately, when you look across what attackers do, in the past, when you look back to the past, it's always easy to say, oh, this happened, then this, then this. But in real time, the attackers are kind of figuring things out, and they have their habits, their tools, their sequences, but they're generally pretty flexible when they've got a human attack operator because they're really objective driven. They're not there to use a particular technique. They're there to get an objective, and then they've got a menu of techniques. And so it's really important to have that broad set of coverage, not only from the end-to-end, beginning to end of what they could do, but also the different options that they would have on an endpoint, on an identity, on a resource, et cetera. And so this is an amalgamation of the most common attack techniques that we see in use actively by attackers. Ken, anything to add there?
No, I think you're absolutely right. This is not a static representation of every attack we see, but these techniques occur in pretty much every attack we investigate. All these steps happen because the attackers need to get from the left-hand side, which is the initial compromise, all the way across to the right, which is their objective, getting to that data.
Yeah, and there still are some sort of single-stage attacks that stay on a single machine. Perhaps they are commodity malware, or they might have figured out the exact right user to phish directly, so they don't have to do this. But for the most part, most of them that we see are kind of general-purpose multi-stage attacks, so they can enter anywhere they want in the organization, get around, navigate it, and then get to their objective. So that's the dominant pattern that we do see. So the first two technologies on sort of that front end piece for those most common sort of entry points and next steps is really Defender for Office 365 and Defender for Endpoint. Ken, do you want to kind of walk us through some of the key capabilities there?
Sure. So what we're looking at here is we call it Extended Detection and Response, XDR. We've moved to a situation where we protect the endpoints or email to protecting across the whole attack space, essentially. So the goal on the attacker's side, if they're thinking, their goal is to get someone inside the target organization to click on a bad thing. It could be a malicious email or a link that takes them to a phishing site. And if we can stop that click happening inside the customer's environment and open it first inside our cloud services, we have an opportunity to disrupt the attack at that point. So Defender for Office 365 provides detection and response capabilities for email, SharePoint, all the other components of Office 365. Excuse me. And the way it works is we look at every piece of information coming into Office 365. We open attachments inside virtual machines to see what happens, essentially. So we're doing all the work that the user usually does on the desktop, but in a safe environment. And that helps us to tell, is this a safe email or not? I always say at this point, there's no such thing as a silver bullet for security. Nothing's going to stop 100% attacks 100% of the time. So we have layered defenses. So maybe we assume in this case the attacker does get their malicious email inside the network, and someone opens it on an endpoint. This is where Microsoft Defender for Endpoint comes into play. So here we're doing detection and response capabilities for workstations, for servers, for mobile devices, and more. And we're using regular antivirus techniques, but also a lot of heuristic and behavioral detections. So looking for anomalous behavior on the endpoint, an indication that something bad is happening. When that happens, we will take action to block the attack. We'll investigate it further. We will tell the other parts of the Microsoft environment what we've found. So we're sharing signal across these products and services. So we're kind of moving up and down the attack chain as we go. One thing that's important to understand for these products is we're giving you capabilities here that you need inside products and services you already use. So Office and Defender for Endpoint on Windows machines, and Azure. If you're using Azure as your cloud environment, we have Azure Defender as well, which provides more capabilities for server virtual machines, coverage of SQL servers, containers, and a lot more. So our goal here is obviously to stop the attack, or at least detect it and tell the rest of our our security environment what to do.
Absolutely. And if they do happen to get directly on an endpoint, through perhaps it's being used to host a web server, or someone plugs a USB drive into a client endpoint, this can also catch it from there. So it doesn't have to go through this exact particular sequence. So remember that flexibility element.
All right.
Then, go ahead.
I was going to say, at this point, let's assume that the attacker manages to get past these protections at the front end, and then we're moving into the identity attack portion of the sequence. Now we have a couple of technologies here which will help. Azure AD Identity Protection, excuse me, is our protection for identities in the cloud. So we're looking for anomalous use of accounts, anomalous access to things that we don't usually see that account doing. And we have Microsoft Defender for Identity, which does the same thing for our on-premise identities. So again, looking for anomalous behavior down there. So we'll look for bad things happening with an identity. We'll raise alerts, and those alerts will go to the rest of our protection stack, and we can investigate them either automatically or I'll flag it for a security analyst to look at.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that that the Defender for Identity is really it covers a lot of the aspects of on-premises, both the native Azure, wow, so used to talking Azure, the native Active Directory, sort of the very popular directory services that folks have to manage their on-prem resources, but also the ADFS components as well, because those are providing a critical bridge to the cloud. And in many ways, the easiest way to think about this, and this technology used to be called ATA. There's still an on-prem standalone version called ATA, as well as Azure ATP, for those that are familiar with the older terms. But effectively what this is retrofitting some of those modern cloud capabilities that are just simply built into Azure AD, because it's a cloud service, we can put the code straight there. Whereas the on-prem piece does need to have an additional separate component that connects up. But ultimately, they provide a very similar set of capabilities. Ken, did you want to cover the cloud app security piece?
Sure. So what we've talked about so far is our protection response for our email, our office environment, our endpoints, anomalous behavior and identities. But let's assume an attacker has got past all of these defenses without triggering anything. Now actually get to the data they're trying to steal or damage or destroy or ransomware, whatever their end goal is. This is where technology like Microsoft Cloud App Security comes in. It's a CASB tool, a Cloud Access Security Broker tool, and it allows us to put controls on SaaS apps, software as a service apps in the cloud, so we can track what's happening with our data on those SaaS applications, and also look for attacks coming through those applications and through the cloud into our environment. So it's the final part of our protection chain. We're trying to stop the attack in the first place. We're trying to detect anomalous behavior by identities, so credential theft or lateral movement. And then we're trying to put protection on the data itself and have that integrate across the rest of our Microsoft products and services. So in the example that Mark mentioned before with the USB stick, say an attacker manages to steal some classified documents on a USB stick and takes them to a coffee shop and opens them on their laptop off your corporate network. Because of the integration between our products and services, we'll still be able to detect a bad thing happening with that data and let you know so you can take action on that.
Yeah, through the automatic classification that Microsoft Information Protection picks up, and then you can monitor through that. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the key things to understand about this. That's one particular scenario. But all of these pieces are integrated together and have recently become integrated into a single console, so that you're able to see all of these events, all these attack chains in one place with that real high fidelity, deep integration across them. So it's really important to understand that this is very much an integrated experience across all of these steps, and investigators simply have to work with that one interface, that one user experience. And then they can see, hey, look, so this particular set of incidents, we've got 3 criticals and 5 mediums. And of the 3 criticals, one of them actually has high value assets, some really sensitive data. And that helps you prioritize even further what to focus on. And then, of course, span across these and not have to copy and paste between tools as they do investigations and whatnot. So a very important element to add there. Now, of course, that isn't all that you need to integrate is, these particular things. You're going to have network devices. You're going to have other logs where you want to do some other querying and other log data sources from, other clouds, on-prem appliances, et cetera. So you're going to correlate and connect all these things together. And that's where Azure Sentinel comes in as our Security Information Event Management, or SIEM or SIEM, depending on how you like to say it. That also has automation orchestration, it SOAR technology, behavior analytics, machine learning. So lots of different technologies all bundled together that allow you to work across not only this data, but a lot more than that as well. Anything to add on Sentinel, Ken?
No. So the important things about Sentinel are it's native to the cloud. So it was built in the cloud to give us threat hunting capabilities in the cloud, to protect data that's in the cloud. So we're moving close to the source of truth for all these things. Because it's a cloud service, you can just turn it on inside Azure. It will scale automatically depending on your needs. And there are a pretty big range of connectors that we've built for third-party solutions on Microsoft products and services. You can just turn on inside Azure and get instant benefit from the tool. A lot of fun to play with.
And one other thing that we hadn't mentioned yet is the automation orchestration, across both, because across all those XDR tools at the top, we have a capability called Auto IR, or Auto Investigation Response, I believe is what it stands for, that automates, across endpoint, identity, and I believe a few other places, and will automatically investigate issues that are found, alerts and whatnot. And if it confirms that, yes, this does appear to be a real thing that needs to be cleaned up, it will automatically build up a cleanup sequence of events so that it's automated to clean up. And then it's really up to you on, on a particular given type of detection. Do you want it to automatically run that? Or do you want to prompt an analyst to double check, provide that human input before actually running that cleanup script? And so that's one version of SOAR that's built into the XDR capabilities. And then the other style of SOAR is within Azure Sentinel that helps orchestrate between a bunch of different tools, like your Teams or Slack channel that the security operations or SOC folks are using to investigate an incident, to automatically block a port or block an IP on the firewalls, to do any number of different tasks to coordinate with other IT and security systems. And so there's kind of both of those versions of automation orchestration that are built in.
Yeah, and the other important thing there is all of this detection and remediation information that we gather, all that signal, all those alerts, it gets fed into all of our products and services, also fed into Azure Sentinel, but also goes into the Microsoft Threat Intelligence environment, which means if someone finds new ransomware somewhere in the world, we'll automatically detect that, remediate that, and tell the rest of the world what we find, so they can benefit from the protections that we built into our products and services as well, automatically.
Yeah, it's very powerful, because if we find something in someone's email, regardless of whether it was there and it's a new piece of malware, that piece of malware is now going to be detected across endpoints, across Office, across SaaS apps, you name it. And so it really sort of connects this together. So the last piece here, because all we've talked about so far is external risks. You also have to deal with insider risks. The folks that, for various reasons that are listed here within your organization, legitimate employees or partners or whatnot, might actually cause security risk and lead to that same sort of end state of exfiltration of data. Ken, did you want to kind of walk us through this?
Sure. I mean, I think you mentioned that it's important to realize that these risk factors can be deliberate acts by the insider, or they could just be not exhibiting good behavior, so being careless or accidentally falling victim to a phishing scam or someone sending information inappropriately. Excuse me. So what we do have on the top there, the XDR level, is a bunch of detections for anomalous behavior. So, for example, we can identify if someone's downloading significant amounts of confidential information, or maybe they're storing all those confidential documents on a USB drive. The piece that's been missing until now on the insider threat conversation is, how do we know that this insider is going to exhibit poor behavior? So now we have integrations from things like your HR systems. We can take alerts for a situation where, for example, this insider who has downloaded a lot of sensitive data onto a USB drive now submits a resignation notice to HR. So that's an obvious risk that they look like going to try and take confidential information to another employer or another organization. So we'll put those risk factors together and flag it for you and say, this, you need to go and investigate this because this looks like a risky behavior. And that's something that we haven't been able to do before. So exciting new capabilities.
Yeah, and it really helps you get, the reason why we put it all together in this one visual, that overall picture for both insiders and externals, that you can then kind of get that single picture of it, understand your risk from all of those without having to, invest in a whole bunch of different tools and then integrate them together. So it really gives you that great visibility on both sides. So Ken, any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Well, I think you've done a great job explaining our end-to-end detection and response capabilities, excuse me, ability to protect data, and use Azure Sentinel as a tool to further extend that security intelligence into other areas of our customers' environments. The insider threat piece is new and exciting, and what I really want to finish off at the end is, again, highlighting the integration between all of these products and services. They all talk to each other at cloud speed, so things can happen that humans really can't do. And significant investment in areas of automation and response. So trying to make your security analysts' lives easier. That's what I go for.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken, and thank you all for watching.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone.